Chris Jericho has been so much of a detriment to the AEW talent that I don't know where the hell Sammy Guevara is. And Sammy Guevara was slated to be Chris Jericho's protege. And the thing that's so interesting about that is when you really look at the beginning of Chris Jericho's career, he has a lot of similarities to Sammy Guevara. And Chris Jericho was a damn good cruiserweight. I can't take nothing away from him, especially early on, because that was the best version of Chris Jericho. And as I've already mentioned, I think that's why it's so difficult for Chris Jericho to uphold any real image in professional wrestling right now, because he can't roll back time and be a cruiserweight all over again. But back to poor Sammy Guevara, where the hell is he? I mean, I know he has something going on with Dustin Rhodes and Ring of Honor, but both of those things that I just said sound completely crazy. Why is Sammy Guevara teaming up with Dustin Rhodes? Like, whose idea was that? And then why were both those guys even in Ring of Honor? I haven't been watching AEW too much, so maybe Sammy Guevara is back in the company. It's just the last time I watched, Sammy Guevara was a tag team champion with Cody Rhodes' older brother. And I don't know what the hell for. And I'm not trying to blame that all on Chris Jericho because he doesn't book the matches in AEW. But I'm under the belief that Chris Jericho had a significant role in matches being booked in AEW, if that makes any sense. I'm basically saying I think Chris Jericho had a huge influence on the matches that he had in AEW. Because weirdly enough, AEW thought that Chris Jericho was the star power they needed to get that company off the ground. I call it ironic because we all saw that Cody Rhodes ended up being the MVP, and that's why he just got one of the biggest victories in his career over John Cena for the WWE Championship. Now, for anybody that's been watching and think that I'm full of shit, what would happen if the roles were reversed? What would happen if Cody Rhodes was still in AEW and they sent Chris Jericho to the WWE for these past few years? Because I'll tell you right now, I said before that I think AEW is just one star away from being a real contender in pro wrestling. If they would have let Cody Rhodes be the type of star that he could have been in AEW, I pretty much guarantee that the WWE would be in a lot of trouble right now. I don't even see how that could even be a debate when we just saw Cody Rhodes become a two-time WWE Undisputed Champion. Cody Rhodes has picked up victories over every major player in the WWE since his return. So that's just AEW dropping the ball at believing in the wrong people. Now, I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but that's because this is what happens when I think about Chris Jericho and professional wrestling. It's just too much going on as far as this man is concerned. Because back to poor Sammy Guevara, he was supposed to be Chris Jericho's protege. I thought that Sammy Guevara had all of the tools to be one of the bright stars moving forward. Even at the beginning of AEW, he was considered one of the pillars of that company. What the hell happened to him being one of the pillars of that company? Again, I can't completely blame Chris Jericho, but I do give him 65% of the blame because I know that Chris Jericho was a heavy influence in terms of his booking. And I'm pretty sure that he vouched for Sammy Guevara to be a future star in the company. Even when Sammy Guevara got away from Chris Jericho, for some weird reason, just a short time later, they were reunited with the Jericho Appreciation Society. This abomination of a wrestling faction. That silly group buried everybody that was involved in it, including Chris Jericho. If Chris Jericho really wanted to help any of those guys that was involved in that dumb group, why would you even call it that? Why would you even name it Jericho Appreciation Society? You bury all of the guys just with the name because you're saying that these guys worship you. You're just saying that they're a bunch of assholes that believe in Chris Jericho. So not just one time, Chris Jericho helped bury Sammy Guevara twice, to the point that Sammy Guevara had to team up with Dustin Rhodes. Again, what the hell is that all about? Just because both guys are from the state of Texas? Out of all four guys that AEW once upon a time considered to be the pillars of that company, I could argue that Sammy Guevara was the best wrestler of all four guys. And that's including MJF. I could argue the fact that Sammy Guevara is a more exciting wrestler to watch than all four of those guys. Once again, he reminds me a lot of Chris Jericho at the beginning of his career. This is why Vince McMahon selected Chris Jericho to be the first undisputed champion in the WWE. Because at that time, Chris Jericho could also do everything inside of the ring. The only problem for Sammy Guevara is just he wasn't as good on the microphone as Chris Jericho was. I think that's the only thing that's really missing for Sammy Guevara. He just needs to get a better character and he needs to believe in himself more. But this again is why I kind of fault Chris Jericho. Because what the hell was you doing being his mentor if you wasn't there to help correct that situation? AEW has been around for at least 5 or 6 years now. Sammy Guevara should have the utmost confidence in himself. And being that he was so closely associated to Chris Jericho, you would have thought Jericho would have took it upon himself to make sure Sammy Guevara was a power player in AEW. I don't even think he should come back to the WWE just based off that. You spent all those years there with Sammy Guevara, but yet Sammy seems like he's back to square one.